positive way to approach this. We think tackling it in a targeted way would be far more effective, and the government's recent announcement on that is a good move.
Don, but where exactly are we at with that? I mean, I heard the boss of Tesco, Sir Terry Leahy, recently, he was saying, look, we'll do this if everybody else does it. Yeah. What is everybody else doing?
Well, I think that the thing is the drinks industry does need to be led by government, and everyone agrees that. And the government of the day have said they will look at below-cost selling. They haven't defined what below-cost selling is. If it's just duty and VAT, that actually doesn't amount to very much, and there are plenty of cheap drinks that would actually still be on the market and promoted and would not be affected. So the only realistic and targeted way to do this would be to have a minimum price per unit of alcohol. That's workable. You can work out what each product's minimum price would be on that basis. You couldn't do it on the basis of duty, VAT and production.
Okay, well, we're getting reaction to this story throughout this morning, Charlotte. What are folks saying on this?
Well, a lot of people are sceptical, actually, that it just won't work, and they're worried about it penalising the responsible drinker. There are some other suggestions that I'd like to put to you, actually, just to see if you think these would work, that people are saying would be more effective. Connie from the US says to curb binge drinking, you need to raise the drinking age to 21. And Mick in France is saying charge people, basically, if they get so drunk that they need medical attention.
Oh, I'm all for that.
Yeah,
I think in the A&E, if you feel a breathalyzer, you should be handing your credit card over for that and argue about it later.
That's one approach, but you know, why not try and actually tackle the root cause of the problem, which is essentially, I think, we need to change the behaviour of binge drinkers and heavy drinkers. And the evidence shows, which is what NICE have just said, the best way to do that is to target them in their pockets. They are the people that purchase the most promotions.
But it's something to do. I mean, you know, I see youngsters, and you know, it's not regarded as a fun night out unless they do this. Yeah. And also, there's a lot of films, and there's what's called drinking games. And you know, listen, Ireland might be one of the worst countries in the world where we use all sorts of terms and euphemisms, and you know, you just can't possibly be having fun unless you're drinking. But I think it's a cultural thing. I do think it's a cultural thing, and we've got to nip it there.
I think that's right. And of course, in terms of those sorts of promotions you're talking about, Eamon, they've now been banned by law in pubs in Britain.
Yeah, but they're still on films. They're still in movies.
There is still
things, yeah?
There is still a big problem. I think the idea of charging people who cause a problem to their communities is a very positive contribution.
Good. We all like
to the
that
debate,
then. We all like
because
that.
It increases individual responsibility rather than penalising all those people.
What else have you got?
Well, another one, Sean Spillan says, like the smoking ban, minimum pricing won't work. It'll penalise poorer people. And I guess, you know, a lot of people have been saying that the smoking ban didn't perhaps have, you know, raising the price of cigarettes, that didn't have the desired effect. And a lot of people will still continue to drink and just have to spend a bit more doing it.
I mean, that's not true. I mean, the smoking rates have gone down as a result of more expensive cigarettes and as a result of the smoking ban. I think the issue about poor people and alcohol is that if you're poor, essentially, you will not be affected by higher alcohol prices, and that is because if you drink a lot of alcohol, you'll be affected. If you're poor and you drink a moderate amount of alcohol, you will not be affected. And it's the very cheap. It depends what sort of drinks we're talking about. The strong lagers or strong ciders would have the greatest increase in terms of minimum price, but the standard drinks would not be as affected. So I think it's a red herring to say that if you're poor, you'd be affected.
Mark, I just want to finish on one final thing. Forgive me for interrupting, and that is we do hear the decline of the British pub overall, and you know, I think like post offices, people will miss them
absolutely
when they're gone. Whether you're drinking, listen, I'm not much of a drinker at all, but I do appreciate the atmosphere of a pub, and I can appreciate what it brings to a community. What is the situation there at the moment, and the effect of campaigns like this?
Well, pubs are still closing at a record rate. It's come down slightly from what it was last year. Pubs are still under enormous pressure. And things like a tax increase of £700 million over the last 2 years is certainly not helping. So we do need to put in more support to Britain's pubs and encourage people actually to drink in that controlled environment rather than the sort of drinking on the streets and in parks that happens at the moment.
And I'm just very curious, last word, Mr. Alcohol Concern, Dawn, do you take a drink? I'm just curious. And if
I do.
And so you're not a prude re-drink?
Oh, no. We're not anti-alcohol. We are anti-excessive drinking. And I think the point is we all want to see the pubs survive. The problem is the supermarkets have to be tackled in terms of loss leading, and the government have to find a way of doing that.
So people who binge drink, people who abuse the system should be charged when they use the health service, and supermarkets again painted as the villain in all of this. Gentlemen, enjoyed that debate. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We'll leave it there. We're going to take a break, and thanks incidentally for all your emails and tweets on. Just finishing Sunrise this morning talking about football. We've got the Mirror's football writer Darren Lewis now with me in the studio, and Rob's here, of course, to talk about that. And Charlotte's got your emails on various points, and if there's any football ones, Charlotte, obviously we'd appreciate those as well. But Darren, all the talk, Rob, this morning is Theo Walcott. Do you think he really was as surprised? Rob was saying to me earlier that he was on the golf course and he checked to see that it wasn't a hoax call.
That's right. He was so shocked. He was so convinced. That picture's so appropriate behind us because
scratching his head.
Scratching his head, because a lot of people were scratching their heads, and he in particular, he got 2 calls. He spoke to the Daily Mirror's chief sports writer Oliver Holt afterwards. He said, I got 2 calls, and the first one, the reception wasn't so good. It went dead. I called Capello again. He said I wasn't going. His people had to call the FA to check that it wasn't a hoax, that somebody wasn't playing a cruel prank on him. And here's why. That's what he can do at his best.
Yes, but what didn't he do at his best? You said he had 2 calls, but he had also 2 matches. He had Mexico and Japan.
Yes.
And the whole thing is, I don't know what we're looking at here. What's this?
There's pictures of him coming out, right. I think with...
Yes, him going to school in the morning, being collected on the school.
Well, he may well have to now. We're finishing school.
I mean, time is on the lad's side. It must be very devastating for him. But the argument is that basically, international defence has got wise to him. They knew what he was doing, and when he cut inside, he didn't know what to do. He just played it square. Absolutely.
Capello wanted him to stay on the right-hand side touchline, go past the defender and cross the ball in for whenever striker was in the box to score. He didn't do that enough in the 1.5 games he played. He's only young, 21 years old. He's got so much time at his disposal. Sometimes we forget that.
As you were just saying to me, it is interesting. He's been the story for both these last 2 World Cups. Last time for being included when he hadn't even played a first-team match for Arsenal. Now he's the story, but he's been excluded. But what about the general makeup of the team, Darren?
I think it's a well-balanced squad overall. I wouldn't have taken Michael Carrick from your team, Manchester United. I would have taken West Ham's Scott Parker. Sorry about that. But I think Parker's in form and Carrick's not. And the World Cup, not a place to rebuild your confidence and your reputation. What I would say is that although Capello's been foot perfect so far in terms of the qualifying campaigns, high scorers, as I was telling you the other day, maybe the way that the announcement was handled yesterday, not the best. A big drip feed of information.
Do you think there should have been one press conference or everybody called together and said, look, these are the lads not going? I think Harry Redknapp was saying that it filtered out. Once you tell one person, they get on to someone, they get under their contacts.
Absolutely.
The rumour mill spreads. It takes a long time to get through the list.
Well, we were sitting in the Daily Mirror's offices and our website chaps were also sitting around waiting for the information, and we were receiving a steady stream of it. So by the time the announcement was on the FA.com at 4 o'clock, everybody knew who was in and who was out, and everybody was already putting stories together for today's newspapers, and that's not the way it should be. 4 years ago, Sven named his 23, then named 7 standby players. He told them all. It was all done in one very clean movement. In '98, Glenn Hoddle, Lamanga told the players, OK, Gaza didn't react quite the way we expected him to. But
what's the need for all this? Surely Capello knew who his 20 were anyway.
I think so. I really do think so.
I love the idea that he's making these phone calls. He's like some kind of Simon Cowell figure, that he's ringing them up and he's going, I've got some bad news for you, you better pack your bags.
Well, you're absolutely right, because the Mirror's columnist Jermaine Defoe was telling me yesterday that that's exactly what happened. He got a call, he said, I've got some bad news for you, and his heart sank, and then he said, you're going to have to cancel your summer plans because you're going to the World Cup.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
But look, I have huge faith in Capello, don't you? I mean, isn't that the whole thing about him being here, that we all have learned to respect his decisions now? But everyone's always going to have a different view about who should and shouldn't have gone. Darren Bent is another case in point.
I think you're absolutely right, Rob, but the reason Darren's not going is because he plays in a very one-dimensional way. Here's him playing alongside Ken Wynne-Jones for Sunderland. That's what he does best in the Premier League, but international football, very, very different indeed. You've got much more canny defenders who can stop you from playing the way you're used to in the domestic leagues, and that's why he's not going, and Defoe is.
Heskey, because you see a lot of people, I've seen Twitter, it's not, I just want you to think Darren's a very good man. People always, they point out and they say, Emile Heskey, he doesn't score. What's the point of him? Whatever. You've looked at the stats, you have studied the stats, you're a believer.
Absolutely, I'm a believer. He's only scored 4 goals for Aston Villa, his club side, in the last year, but for England, he is pivotal to the side that has scored 34 goals in qualifying. That's the highest number of any European nation, including the world champion.
Do you like football?
I don't mind football. I prefer a bit of cricket. It's a bit more weather dependent, I think.
But
it's a bit more my thing.
Will you get all patriotic during the World Cup?
I'd like to watch some of the games, yeah. I get into the swing of things like everybody else. I think it's quite good fun.
Charlotte has the full kit.
It's a great festival, isn't it?
She has the full kit.
Yeah, I dress up.
home and away.
I think it's important
You decorate your car?
I think it's important to go the whole way, make the whole effort, back the team the whole. Yeah, definitely.
But that is, I mean, Charlotte actually said they're back the whole team. Whatever the debate is, it's now over. We've got the team, and the thing is, we've got to back them from here.
I think we do have to back him. They've brought him in on £6 million a year precisely because this is a man who gets results, and I think he'll do well with England this year.
Got to blow the whistle on you there, Darren Lewis. Thank you very much indeed. Gang, thank you very much indeed. We'll take a break there. That's the end of Sunrise. It's the live desk next. Thanks for watching.